So let's give a brief look at what a transaction looks like and how to navigate those milestones so you can have the smoothest possible closing. So we talked already and kind of beat that horse with the pre-approval and what that looks like. We talked a little bit about shopping and home tours, hiring an agent, narrowing the criteria, doing showings, and then making offers. Let's look a little bit at the escrow process. So this is where you're kicking the tires. Typically what happens is when you open escrow, you're going to put a deposit in escrow, and then you're going to begin to do your due diligence. You're going to make sure, do I still really want this house after I find out, what's behind the walls and what's under the rug? So you're going to do an inspection. This is where a home inspector is going to go through that house with a fine-tooth comb and tell you everything that's going on there. You're going to get an appraisal. This is where your lender is going to make sure you're not overpaying for the home. Usually the lender's got more skin in the game than you do as a buyer. Most people aren't putting down 50% or more. They're putting down 3, 5, 10, 20%. So the lender has a lot of skin in the game. They want to make sure you're not overpaying. This is your safety valve to make sure you're not overpaying, because that lender is going to do that third-party independent appraisal to validate the price of that house. Disclosures is where the seller is going to tell you anything they know about that home. And that's required that they disclose everything that they know or that they should know about that house. You're going to review HOA documents. If the home's in an association, you want to make sure there's no funky rules, that the HOA is not underwater from an expense perspective, that there's no special assessments coming. And then you're going to do negotiations. Once you've figured out all the information, now you're going to go back and negotiate with the seller. Was there any appraisal issues? Were there any big surprises on that inspection? Did they disclose something that you didn't know that's significant before you made the offer? You want to do that negotiation after you have all that information. During this time, at the same time, your loan is going through that approval process. Once your loan is approved and the negotiations are complete, you're going to fully remove all of your contingencies. In other words, you're telling the seller, I'm good, I've done my homework on the property, and I'm moving forward. It's at this point that your deposit, which has been in escrow all this time, is now at risk. If you cancel after removing your contingencies, the seller could theoretically keep your deposit. So that's important to understand. So we talked a little bit about how your inspector is going to come in. Your appraisal is going to make sure that your value is there. Your disclosures are going to identify any defects or malfunctions. Your HOA docs are going to show you the CC&Rs, the rules and regs, the board minutes, and the financials. And then your negotiations are going to make sure that you're getting the best deal and that nothing gets missed before you remove all those contingencies and your loan is fully approved. One of the things I always tell my clients is you don't break out the champagne when you get your offer accepted. It's a nice milestone, it's exciting, but it's once you've done all your due diligence and you've removed your contingencies, that's when you call the movers, you break out the champagne, you give notice, that's when you know it's a done deal. And then finally you get to closing. So once you've removed those contingencies, now it's a race to the finish line. So you're going to get from your lender something called a clear to close. Then they're going to send out what's called a closing disclosure with all the numbers and costs and just spelling everything out for you. The closing disclosure starts a 72-hour clock where you'd actually have to review that disclosure for 3 days before you can sign your loan documents. Your loan documents are going to be signed. You're going to wire your closing funds to escrow. One question I get very often is, when do I need my down payment? You actually are not sending the money to escrow until usually the day before or on the day of closing. So those funds aren't actually going to escrow until really almost at the finish line. Finally, you're going to get the lender. This is really on the lender side. They're going to review final funding conditions, and then the loan is going to fund. It's going to record, which means title is moving title over to the new owner, and then you're going to get keys to your new home.